don't you look at me? I've tried to be as open as I can. Why don't you look at me? I'm tired of being the invisible man. The invisible man. Oh, the invisible man.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Invisible Man. My name is Mark Davis Stallard, and of course you all know Ryan Jans. Say hi, Ryan.
Hello. Jazz hands there.
It is, yes. Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm in a quirky mood. I've had one of those weeks where I think 3 out of the 5 nights this week, my daughter's come into our room at about 3 a.m, and I've not been able to get back to sleep. So I might be a little silly and goofy today, but that's part of the fun, right?
Well, as long as you stay awake, that'll be great. And of course we have, you'll recognize Angela R. Campbell from Oh Just Eat It, and of course the Invisible Song Club. We've invited her to join in and co-host the show with us today. How are you, Angela?
Yay!
Hello, everyone. Jazz hands again.
It's fantastic. So Shalim reports the sound is good. So we are raring to go. So thank you very much for joining us. Please, it'd be great if you could share the stream, get it out to as many people as we can. The more people that are in the chats and are throwing questions out and joining in with the show, the better. And if whichever platform you're on, like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever it is, and become part of the Invisible Man show. So ask your questions. So we have a very special guest on the show today, Angela. Would you like to go ahead and do the honors?
I would be happy to do the honors, Mark. Today we have Stacey James, based in Winnipeg, Manitoba, a multi-genre singer-songwriter and versatile instrumentalist. Her career began at 14 years old, performing on the indie pop hip-hop scene. Branching out, she then became lead vocalist and songwriter for the funk band Grooveport. Soon thereafter, she formed Stacey James Band, and now she's thrown her solo career into full swing with songwriting and writing, as that is her first love. She's open for Classified, Souls of Mischief, Master Ace, AWOL 1, and more. Stacey has had the opportunity to write for numerous artists throughout the US and Europe while working with various producers. She loves to write, and you can read her articles online as published by Huffington Post, along with her latest ebooks, Words Are My Power, Reflections and Expressions, Volume 1 and 2. They are available now on Amazon. Stacey has her own podcast, has recently recorded new music both as a solo artist and with the Stacey James Band. And I lost my place. Oh, here we go. Annually, Stacey puts together a fundraising event for women and children in need, together with local musicians, called the Women Helping Women event, which you can find out more about at the website www.womenhelpingwomenevent.ca. I'm out of breath now. Stacey is obviously a dynamic woman. She is, always creating new stuff. She's very creative. She's very talented. And Stacey, we will go right to you. Please tell me if I've left anything else out.
No, I mean, I'm just sitting here, I'm like slinking into myself. But no, that sounds about like that's the gist of it. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't miss anything. So, Stacey, can you tell us a little about yourself, how you got started in music? Do you have music in your family, or what's the background there?
Yeah, well, my mom actually, she was a vocalist. She did some singing in the city. There was a band back in the day. I know she sang with them for a while. Expedition to Earth. It was a local Winnipeg band. But yeah, she was a singer and a poet, and she used to write poetry a lot. And she had a big folder that I wasn't allowed to read, but I'd always sneak in and read it anyways. But there was always music bumping in my house. Every Saturday it was like Motown cleaning party, And I had no rhythm. So I'd be like, And she'd be like, follow the beat, Stacey, follow the beat. And yeah, so it was in my family for sure, the music. She wasn't a songwriter, but she was always kind of singing along, and she kind of, just became a mom, but she still wrote poetry. So that's what kind of started me into music, I would say, and my poems became songs.
Excellent. Mark, what questions do you have?
So with the poems, do you find that there is a difference between writing poetry and putting your thoughts down in words as there are lyrics? Do you find that there's a difference between the two?
I think the one difference for me personally would be that when I'm writing songs, I feel like I'm thinking more about structure. I don't think I felt that way when I first started writing songs when I was like 13, but at this point, it's like I think about the structure of the song, and I feel like poetry is more free flowing. I still write a lot of poetry, and I can just kind of, and I'm not thinking as much about structure. So that would be the biggest difference I find. But for the most part, when it comes to the organization of like the words and the syllables and stuff like that, they're very similar. Just one has a melody.
Okay. Ryan.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple of comments, at least what I can see in the in there. There's a Tiffany. Tiffany, if I say your last name wrong, please. That's my thing, saying people's names wrong. So please forgive me. Tiffany Ponce says, yes, amazing Stacey James, heart, strong music, and I think those are fireworks. Might be. And Shalim has pointed out that Angela needs more coffee. Does Angela need more coffee? We might get through an hour's show in about 15 minutes if we give Angela more coffee. So, but
Shalim needs to understand that this show starts a lot earlier than what I'm used to at the Song Club. So yeah.
And we also have Eddie Mole joining us, just giving us the old double note. So thanks, Eddie, for joining us all the way over in the UK, the Mole Man, as our friend Adam from Adam and the Hellcounts would call him. Anyways, let's actually get to the question that I was going to ask here. So multi-instrumentalist. And I'm going to veer off how this was written, but I'm going to ask the core of the question here. Multi-instrumentalist. Now, you've already sort of given us a key on how you like to do things with the lyrics and your poetry. How does that affect when you're writing? If you're playing with multiple instruments, do you have a core instrument that you always play, and that's sort of how you relate to everything, or do you say like, well, I've written this, and this sort of sounds like this kind of song, and maybe I'll start on the guitar, or I'll move to the keyboard? Fill us in on some of those blanks there.
Yeah, for the most part, I gravitate towards the piano or the keyboard. I try to go to my keyboard, but usually I start on a full piano, and then I just mess with the transitions on my keyboard. But that's usually where I start. It's my passion instrument, like that's the one I feel the most. But sometimes I will hear it like a guitar. And so I'll actually go and write it on the guitar. I use a lot of these instruments as songwriting tools. That's where the band comes in, because I will go to Mark and be like, blah, 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 like, and he'll take it and actually turn it into something real. He's like, oh, this is what you're trying to do, and make it sound really good, right? But yeah, for the most part, I find that I do start on the keyboard or the piano. Like that's my baby. That's where I go to cry. Yeah.
Oh, it's understandable. I mean, I can play guitar there, and my first instrument was was piano as well, but I veered off very far. Bass has become the instrument that I really relate to, and I can play guitar. I can do it well-ish, but I let Mark do that. That's his side of the stage, and he's really great at doing that. So, and we also have Norm Richard joining us. It says hi, Stacey and Angela. So. And it looks like he corrected himself, because I'm not the only person who gets people's names wrong, except he wrote it wrong. So Norm, I feel you, man.
I'd say to follow up there with the songwriting, using the different instruments as tools. How do you find that the different instruments, do they do different jobs, different tasks? I mean, how do you mean they're tools?
I mean, for me, they're tools to get different sounds out. You know, I wouldn't say that I'm, what's the best way to put it? I associate different sounds with emotions. That's probably the best way I can describe it. So when I hear something that would be in guitar, it has a different emotion for me than something with a piano. And because I wouldn't say that I'm super fluent on any of them, because I dabble in so many places, they're tools. It's like, okay, you're like my screwdriver for this big thing that I'm building. But does that kind of make sense?
I think so.
I'm like, sometimes it sounds better in my head. Yeah. But yeah,
it always sounds better. It always sounds better in your head, though, right?
Right.
Until you put it down. And there's only a few riffs and stuff that I've thought in my head that I've given to Marcus, and that it's been like, I have a moment of inspiration, and I go and I'll immediately play it, and then it'll be, yes, this is exactly it, and then I'll record it and send to Mark. Usually a lot of that comes, I'll almost create too much of a line and then start paring things back, and then we actually have two songs, one that we're working on right now, but the other one we had sort of put in. I had written the songs for a different band, but there were two distinct parts. And we chopped up one and made a song out of it. And I was like, well, this other part's still really good too. We've never found a reason for it. And now as we're starting to write more music together, we've actually used it. So it always sounds better in your head, right? And it's bigger and bigger and bigger. And then like, well, can't do this. And so,
well, actually, we actually have a song called "Didn't Say What I Mean." It's I say exactly what I think I mean, but then I realize what I said. I didn't say what I mean, and the chorus goes on. Anyhow,
I like that. Story of my life. Yeah.
Mine is usually, would you like ketchup on your toes? Because I end up eating my
food.
Ketchup toast.
Yeah.
Well, Stacey, you may have trouble sometimes getting out what's in your head, except when you're creating a song. Like, I think you have no trouble getting out what's in your head when you make your songs are great. And actually, recently, a fan I saw did a cover of one of your songs. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Sarah. Her name is Sarah. She did a cover of "Walk to My Beat" from the 11:11 album, and man, that girl blew my mind. Her interpretation of the sound was just beautiful. Her voice was golden. I'm like, I sat there crying. I'm like, you know, yeah, no, she did a really, really good job.
Great.
Yeah, that was great. I really enjoyed that.
It looks like we've got some more. Wow, we've got lots of people talking today in the comments, so we'll read those off. And once we get through the comments, Stacey, would you be up for giving us a tune?
Yeah, I can do a little something.
Very good. We actually have a question from Shalene, but maybe we'll hold off on that question until you're finished your song. Norm Richard and Tiffany Ponce, as I've been so notally corrected, thank you, have both loved the tool analogy, the balance, and this is Robert Goulding, I believe, yes. No, Gooding, not Goulding, Gooding, Robert Goulding, Gooding. It's been a day already. It's only 2. The balance between getting a good beat track and the melody in your head. Oh, okay, that's more of a question. Sorry, never mind. Everybody seems to love it. So how about I stop talking and you start playing? Let's do that. That would be good.
Okay, so you go to my piano then?
Yeah, go to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks because Stacey's a solid communicator, but apparently I'm not. But I'm also running on about 20 hours less sleep than I should be. So,
and Ryan and Angela, if once the music starts, you can turn your cameras off, and then we can give Stacey the
center stage.
Looking forward to this.
Or you can stay on the screen and sing along. Here we
I'm
go.
back. There we go.
Alrighty.
Okay, so we'll give you the screen. It's all yours. So if you want to introduce,
I'll just do a little piece of the single that's going to be coming out with the band.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. It's called "You Love Me."
the way through life is day by day, not paying attention at all to some of the choices that we make. And it's easy to move on, and it's easy to forget, they say. It's easy not to get caught up when there are so many options anyway. But you love me, and I love you. So tell me what we're running from when we both know that it's true. This feels so old, but it is new. I think it's a thing when it comes to me and you. And it's easy to forget, and it's easy to replace, they say. It's easy not to get caught up actions anyway. But you love me, and I love you. So tell me what we're running from when we both know that it's true. It's supposed to just make sense. At least that's what we're told. I'm realizing bit by bit that those are lies that we've been sold. It's supposed to just make sense. At least that's what we're told. I'm realizing bit by bit that those are lies, lies, lies. Don't give up. You love me, and I love you. So tell me what we're running from when we both know that it's true. We know it's true.
Yeah. I left out Mark's solo though because he's not here.
No problem. Here we go. Bring everybody back on. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there we go. That was wonderful. Obviously, we had done some sound levels prior to going live, and I always like to listen to the artists and see who I can, if I can pull influences out of there. And listening to your voice, I'm just trying. Like, I can hear so many different and so many iconic female artists who were very influential, and I can't pick which one, but there are all so many there. So yeah, bravo. I'm usually I can oh yeah, that's this person or that person. But I hear there's almost some Janis Joplin gravel in there, and there's a little bit of there's almost a point where I was like, that sounds like Gwen Stefani now. I've
heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, and it's only in a certain register when it was there, and it's just it's there. It's just wait, somebody we turned No Doubt on? What's going on? And that's a great compliment because she's got a very unique way of style, and she's got a really powerful. You wouldn't think it seeing her she's this tiny little thing, but then
never
melts right out of her, right? It's just amazing. So. Yeah, it'll jump out at me. I'll be sitting here listening and I'll be like, I'll have an aha moment. I'll be like, I know who else. But I mean, it sounds like a lot of, and it makes sense with a lot of the soul music and funk and that kind of urban hip hop and stuff that a lot of those artists are similar. And it's not a genre I'm overly familiar with, so it's harder for me to pick names out of a hat with that one. But yes, it's incredible. So. We said we'd get to Shalim's question.
1 second though, Ryan.
Go ahead.
Hey, right, let me just jump in. I just wanted to let everybody know that if you'd like to, if you like what you hear, there's a link to the Apple page for Stacey's music in the links in the description. If you're on Facebook, look up. If you're on YouTube, look down. Follow those links. And go ahead and buy some, show your support.
Alrighty. Okay, yeah, no problem. Wait till Stacey gets back on the screen. She disappeared. Uh-oh. Stacey, hello?
Did we lose our guest?
She's just switching the camera. She's
just switching her camera there. Okay, good. Perfect. So Stacey's back, and she's better than ever. Now, maybe you can unpack this for us. This is something that Shalim has posted. This is posted up on your Facebook. What does multi-dimensional or dimensional intuitive open channel mean? That's some heavy dope, man. It's only like 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday.
Well, I'm like, do I really want to get into this?
Hey, all hands off if you don't. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm very, let's say, rounded when it comes to various forms of spirituality. I do a lot of work with people from around the world, and I do intuitive channeling. I do a lot of energy reading, and that is ultimately what that means.
Okay, fair enough. You don't have to go any deeper than that if you don't want to. That's all good.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
That's well, and that's about as far as we have a hard fast rule, which I have broken. No politics or religion. I've done that, and that's as far up to the line as we'll take it today.
Yes. Sounds good to me.
Why don't we pass this on to Angela? Angela, you go right on ahead because I'm about to eat my foot.
Yeah, it's about time. Holy crap. Do you know how hard it is for me to sit still and not talk?
No, I can't.
Right?
We know exactly, yes.
Mark knows. Stacey, I would like to ask you about your podcast. Please tell us all about it.
Yeah. Soul Fuel. So it is talking with different people. I do have a bunch of different skits in there also that I'm going to just be posting about some things, gratitude and boundaries, because I talk about all of that on Facebook. But yeah, I speak with different people. I've had the opportunity to speak with a couple different authors. Upcoming, I have a doctor that actually passed away and his experience. So it's all different stories about people that have overcome different things. It's meant to motivate and inspire people that when it comes to life and love of life, and yeah, with the undertone of some spirituality, yes.
Where can we find the podcast and when does it air?
The new one, that should actually be up in the middle of next week. So that's what I'm aiming for. But it is available on every single podcast space. So you can find it on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. There's a whole slew of different ones.
What's it called again? What's it called?
Soul Fuel.
Soul Fuel, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make sure when it goes live, if you want to send me the link and I'll put it up on the Invisible Man Show Facebook page.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Stacey, you're working on the podcast, but you're also a writer. Can you tell us a little bit about your published work?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple books. Those are just simple little poems and quotes that I was putting out there, the volume 1 and 2. Reflections and expressions and reflections. There's that. But yeah, I do also have a couple articles that were published by the Huffington Post, which is pretty neat for me, I guess, when I had that done. And just talking about some of the things that I talk about all the time, like empathy and being in other people's shoes and gratitude and like all these different kinds of things. But further to that, I do have a children's book that I have been actively working on for a number of years, and this sucker's coming out this year. It's dealing with feelings, so that's going to be coming out too. The first book, I actually rewrote it because it needed to have more substance to it. So, Working with Time is the title. So that'll be
you and Mark have that in common. Mark has also written children's books and published.
Oh, cute.
Well, there's one of them. Here we are. Oh, up the right way.
It's upside down.
I like that.
Yeah, so a nice bit of fiction, nothing deep in it at all. just based on my childhood craziness with my friends.
I love books.
Yeah. And completely off topic, I actually wrote a short story earlier this week as well, so I'm back into writing again.
You guys are overachievers. I'm like halfway through my manuscript, and it's just like
Yes, but I read it, Ryan, and it's awesome. So keep going.
Great. No, that's good.
Now,
I'll have.
I
have started adding to it. So
with the writing, so I'm assuming that the children's books fiction, and you're writing lots of prose.
that's for Stacey, not for me.
right?
My book is not a kid's book.
So the kids' book, you're writing, you're writing lots of prose. Some of it's fiction, I assume.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of taking some of the scenarios that I went through with my own children,
right.
Like working with time, for instance, which was tough, when being like, okay, we're working with a schedule here, and they'd be like, what's that? And so everything would always be so thrown off, and kind of turning it into a story about, why we kind of do that. So taking real life things and dealing with feelings, because I'm all about feelings. I'm always talking about feelings and how to express the different feelings that are associated with so many different things in life, and I think that's super important.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously you self-edit as you write before you hand it over to an editor.
Try to.
Do you find that your songwriting, your lyrics have improved since you've been doing that kind of writing and that kind of self-editing?
Yeah, I think that, if I were to take a look at the songs, the first one that came to mind was the first song I wrote. It was called Beautiful Horse. So I think that, yes, my writing has improved. The point of the song was actually good, though. Not gonna lie. It was actually it had a good point somehow. But yeah, I do think that it makes me evaluate things a little bit closer. But I think that's maturity too, and learning how to work with my ADHD. So I think that it has a lot to do with many different things. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that I will write something down, and in the spur of the emotion of writing the song, and then I'll write the first verse and the chorus, and I'll actually sit down and approach it as if it's prose, and figure out, okay, I want a beginning and a middle and an end, and I kind of take a little bit more of a approach there, and I'm more critical of myself, and I make sure that the meter's just so, which I wasn't doing before I was writing. I found it a very useful tool.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So, Stacey, can you tell us about the release of your new music this year in 2021?
Yeah, well, this EP is called Pink, and it's a little bit different than some of the other stuff I've done, which is exactly why I did it. I just needed to, let things out in a different way. And it's actually a part of a series of EPs. I have a couple that are coming. So I've got purple, blue, and yellow. And then I have an orange, which is a collaboration with a gentleman by the name of Barry Cuz that was a guitarist of mine prior to his passing. Rest in peace. And so it's kind of I want to say an R&B pop dance combo pack. The Pink.
Wow.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
I am actually intrigued. That could be fun. I'm more, well, I mean, obviously I play our genre of music, which is like this class, an intoxicating blend of pop and folk,
and
right?
Jazz.
Folk jazz, yeah.
That's not quite true. The stuff that we're writing now is all over the place now. We've got some songs that are coming out shortly.
Yeah, it's a little bit more freeform and basically a lot of fusion style. But I mean, I came out of the heavy metal and punk scene, so I mean that's kind of where I go. So whenever I get to do some or hear something that's not the stuff that I listen to or sort of get off on, and it's nice. It's a nice breath of fresh air, right? So
for sure. Yeah, it's another part of your being, right? Like, I mean, that's how I see it. And I know that, for marketing purposes, they say you got to stick to one genre, but I can't. Like, it physically hurts me. Like, I have so many different sounds, and I actually wrote a country song So that's really going to shake things up, you know? But if it comes through, you got to do what you got to do, right? So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, here's the thing. I would say I would strongly disagree with that. I mean, I didn't think we both are on the same way with this idea of like, well, we need to always say the same. I'm agreeing with you that we need to do something different, because for marketing, it's like, well, you know, if you look at the most successful bands in the world, like the Beatles or Led Zeppelin, and you listen to, you know, first album versus last album before they're finished, they're different. They have different sounds. They grow as a band. They change. They try things. Some things work. Some things don't. They change this and they change that. And then you've got this wonderful repertoire of music. And so it's actually pretty good to do that. But yet they still retain that core of who they are. You know, you listen to it and you're like, yeah, that's Led Zeppelin. Oh, that's the Beatles. Even though, you know, from help to I don't know, say different Rubber Soul, Help, and all these other different artists. Those are the only two that are coming to mind right now. Say all the way down to the Wired album versus Sgt. Pepper's, which is a total experimental. Like, it's different, but it's the same, right? So there's that sort of thing that you have to sort of capture there. And you could say the same thing if you listen to Led Zeppelin 1 versus In Through the Outdoor. Yeah. You can hear the way that the band has changed, right? So,
right. And that kind of leads on to the obvious question is, Ryan had alluded that he was hearing different influences in your voice, and you're talking about being multi-genre. Who are your musical influences? How did you get there?
This is okay. So it starts probably, oh man, I go back as far as like my youth, right? Motown played a huge part in my world. So there was all those records, and to this day, I just absolutely love them. The big band sounds, the brass instruments, like Prince is also a huge influence of mine. Vocally, Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston, I sang them like crazy. Mariah Carey too, I actually sang a lot of her, and Christina Aguilera once I got a little bit older, like a power vocalist I found. But yeah, Whitney, I definitely, the Bodyguard soundtrack, I sang that thing until I turned purple. It actually took me from age 11 to 18 to hit certain notes. I remember being in my attic in my place that I shared with a boyfriend at the time, and I was singing Run to You from the Bodyguard soundtrack over and over and over and over again. And I remember hitting that high note, and I was like, I did it! Like, my whole world came down in that moment because I'd been trying for so long. It was a big deal to me when it comes to singing. But yeah, music, like, I mean, so many genres. I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I love Tom Petty. I love Earth, Wind and Fire, Alicia Keys, Raphael Sadiq. You know, those are some of the R&B kind of people. Jan Arden, you know, there's just so many different genres. Like, I don't even know.
So do you still listen to?
I get excited every time someone mentions the Canadian artist. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I love her.
So do you find as an active musician and songwriter that you listen to a lot of other people's music, or do you sort of listen to a lot, or do you kind of moving away from that?
I certainly don't listen to mine. I don't. It bugs me. Like, unless I'm reviewing it, I can't listen to my own music, and I don't know if that's weird or good, but I can't. So I do listen to a fair bit of music. I have myself really plugged into the Manitoba Music Sound List, their playlist. I love hearing what Canadian talent has, especially Manitoba. Like, we've got so much talent in the city, it's gross, you know, and gross in a good way, you know. But no, I listen to a lot of other people's music. I definitely do. And I'm a danceaholic. I love to dance. So I listen to a lot of like really upbeat stuff that's going to keep me awake. Yeah.
You guys were talking about genres earlier, and I'll tell you, as a music fan, it really doesn't matter what genre, as long as the music doesn't suck.
Yeah.
There you go.
Actually, on that segue, tune in on Sunday for the Invisible Song Club, where we introduce you to all kinds and different great music. So tune in there. That's 3:30 Central.
And music that doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck, guaranteed.
That should be our new tagline.
Yeah, that's right. Guaranteed that it's a fantastic song because one of us loves it. Right. Probably both of us, but one of us does for sure. Anyhow,
for sure.
Back to the interview. Okay, actually, we've got some comments there. I can go back here. We've got the lovely Sherry Cairns. Says,
Hi, Sherry.
Yeah.
We're doing our best to keep him out of trouble.
My lovely wife says that she loved that soundtrack as well, but didn't really care for the movie.
Yeah, I don't really remember the movie. I remember the soundtrack though, because it was like rippy. Yeah.
And Shaleem says he could hear some Aretha in your voice.
Ooh, that's such a compliment.
Yeah, he does.
Did you do that? Yeah.
Okay. And a question from Shaleem. He asks, if you could work with any producer in the world, money no object, who would be on your list?
Oh. I don't know. Honestly, this shattered my whole heart. I mean, can they be passed away? Because I wanted to work.
Yeah, it can be anybody.
Prince. I wanted to write with him, produce with him. I wanted something with him, and I wish I would have sat outside his place every weekend for 10 years until he noticed me or had me carried away or something. It would be Prince.
Okay, perfect.
Interesting enough, is like this is something that Shaleem often will put out on our comments, and so I sometimes will think about it and so just give it a usually end up being involved in another question. I saw that one earlier and I was like, who would I like to? And of course, obviously, the first one that I think was Butch Vig, right? The guy who did stuff with Nirvana and all the grunge scene, because that would be there. But really, I think I would rather work with the guy who, and I can't think of his name. It's just total. I'm having one of those moments where it's just going, and but the guy who did Thriller with Michael Jackson. Whoever produced Thriller with Michael Jackson is who I would like to, because when you look at the way that things are recorded and from a technical standpoint and just like the genre and how he did, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It was, yeah.
Right?
It was a piece of art for sure.
Right. It's just amazing how he's able to blend all those sounds to make, and just, I would love to work with that producer. So if anybody knows in the comments, go ahead and correct me.
I think it was John Landis.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, the Blues Brothers, Trading Places fame.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I know
let's bring it back to Canada.
Sorry?
Let's bring it back to Canada. Stacey, who have you worked with already that you could recommend?
Here? Well, I've worked with, and we're actually working on something new. We're kind of in the stall, but he helped me record one of my first songs, which was amazing. But his name is Ian Grant Breeze. He does a lot of work. He's a very, very talented musician and producer. So there's that. And then even Doug Northcott, he's done a lot of work with me too. He's the drummer of my band. That happened after we had been working together for a fair while on the 1111 album. But so those are two really good. And I've kind of got a couple different things in a couple different places, but until they're finished, I probably shouldn't really extract, but yeah, later. And Canadian wise, that would probably be back in the day, Factor, and that's a producer. He does a lot of work within hip hop. That was fun. I did that with Deep Cave. That was hip hop. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. You can find music online for that too. He wasn't Canadian, so never mind. He was.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, is Factor Canadian? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so I've been corrected. Quincy Jones
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Well,
John Landis,
that's
directed
exactly
the
how I
video.
responded. Yeah, Landis did the video. I
did the
saw
video.
that. But yeah, no, that was
And-
Quincy Jones would be
Oh.
amazing.
And there are lots of comments correcting me in the comments. Lots of people.
This is why we do it live and have an audience.
Yeah,
why.
no, it's all good. I had a question and now it's gone. So if anybody-
Shaleem has a question. Do
Okay.
you prefer smaller gigs or festivals? And what are your favorite venues to play in Winnipeg?
Oh boy. I enjoy them both. I enjoy festivals and smaller gigs. The reason I like smaller gigs is I feel like there's a different kind of closeness and connection with the people that are there. You know, that is one thing that's for sure. I mean, you're in a room, even if there's, 50 people in it, 10 people in it, it's so much different than a festival where you're outside and everybody's kind of spread out and the connection is different, I find. So I'd probably have to say smaller rooms when it comes to that aspect, because I'm a suck and I'm emotional and I like connection. And in the city, there's a lot of places I love, but I mean, I'll always love the Pyramid Cabaret. I'm sorry, my dog is sneaking onto my lap.
It's okay. He's welcome.
I will always love the Pyramid Cabaret because that was the first stage that I ever performed on, and I have a connection with that place. I was snuck in the back door, wasn't supposed to be there, but I just love it there. I would have to say, yeah.
Oh, actually,
There's so many that are good.
and of course we have to ask, the zoo,
Yeah.
will you miss it?
Honestly, there's so many things that happen in the zoo for me. Like, I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
yeah, like I performed in the upstairs, the downstairs, I met like a soul friend there that I never would have known. Like, I mean, there's so many things that happened for me in that place. So I have to say that, yeah, I'll miss that place.
Nice.
Yeah. It was uninhibited. You could just like rock out. You could just be, and it was a good place.
Nice. Did you ever play there?
What's that?
Did you ever perform there?
Yeah, number of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, hip hop and with the bands, both of the bands. Yep.
Right. Nice.
They had an amazing setup there, and that room shouldn't have. On paper, that room shouldn't sound good, but it always sounded great. I've played gigs there before, and yeah, it just, and it doesn't matter what genres there, it just sounds good. They invested heavily in the right.
Just learn the dents in the stage. You're golden.
Yeah.
Because there were little dips, and I almost like bailed on those dips a couple times. But once you learn them, you're good.
Yeah.
For
Oh yeah, no, I remember.
For anyone who isn't from Winnipeg, the zoo has been torn down. It was a very old building, and they have demolished it. And so when Stacey talks about the dips in the stage, you can imagine how old that. I don't know how old that building was.
It was old. And, some of our friends have posted online. Michael Somerville, a friend of ours, has posted online. He says, "Does anyone had something about the zoo?" And I just had to be a smart ass and comment. I said, "Well, now it actually is a hole instead of being referred to as a hole." So
now it's more literal. Yes.
Yeah, it's a big literal hole. So I actually remembered what I was going to ask, and prior to me forgetting my question. So we talked earlier about sort of verse and prose and writing songs in a more traditional, maybe more Motown verse chorus type song. What's different about, say, doing hip hop? Is there a different writing process that you go through? Is it still just verse and prose and try and think about a backbeat or a sort of a way that you want to do it? Or do you hear like that, oftentimes there's a piano cue in some of them, or do you hear that beforehand? Or is it a different side of whole different process in writing for hip hop?
Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'd say that I'd probably written, like, I did a lot of hooks. That was my baby. That's how I started in the hip hop scene, was doing hooks. And then I'd come out and I'd sing with all the people that were rapping. Over time, I did start rapping myself, and I actually have a hip hop EP that's coming out where I am rapping. And I don't think that the difference is necessarily, it's just timing. Like, I mean, as far as where to come in instead of like the piano hitting, or it's the same kind of time structure that you're listening for. Like, am I coming in at 4? Is it 8 before I come in? But from a writing perspective, I think that this is where people that are lyricists need a pat on the back in a big way. You're compiling, like, you have a song, your lyrics are spread out over a sheet, right? But in a hip hop song, that is like 8 bars. So the amount of words that are in a hip hop track by somebody that's rapping is like 10 times more than somebody that's singing. Because in that one word that you're holding, they have spit out like a 15-word line. And I think that that is something that's really amazing, is the way that they're able to memorize so much for one track and get it out with the air to do it, because it's just so much more wordy. And it's very much so, very, very much so close to poetry. It is a very, very poetic form of expression, hip hop.
Yeah. Okay, great. Cool.
Okay, we have actually, there's a question that I lost my place here. Norm Richards commented a little earlier saying, "I thought you loved XQs."
I do love XQs. I do, actually. Yep. I love the sound. And I was saying, I'm like, I love so many venues, and I'm going through them in my head because I love so many venues in our city. But they said the one that, and I automatically attach things to my heart.
Yes, indeed. That's great. Sherry, I don't know if she's really. I'm going to put her comments into a real question. Is about the zoo. Do you remember the sticky floor? I'm not sure if that's the question she's asking, but sticky floor.
Yes. Everybody remembers the sticky floor. We all lost the shoot.
It reminds me of an episode of Third Rock from the Sun, and French Stewart, who's the guy that always had his eyes closed. They're in a theatre, and he fell down onto the floor in the cinema, and he goes, "I'm stuck to the floor." Anyway, it just reminded me.
I'm the only person in the group who didn't experience the zoo. I never went to the zoo. It was closed before I got here.
Yeah. So again, as somebody who's seen lots of shows at the zoo and actually played there, there's always that sort of like that soft spot there. But it was dirty. It was a dirty club. Like, you'd walk in and like. So I went through a spell, and this is the same as Aussie's down in the basement there. So it's the same thing. I hadn't been to the zoo or Aussie's in about 10 years. And I walked in to Aussie's, went downstairs in the basement, and the only thing that had changed was that they got a new VLT machine. And then when I went upstairs, less had changed upstairs in the zoo. I think they had different posters, and they put up some new posters and stuff. But I remember seeing the zoo, like that big banner that they have over the stage where it says the zoo, and it's like that that triangulated thing for they hang the lights on, and like nothing had changed in like 10 years. But it really was, and it sort of was the how do you say it? That sort of was the quintessential like rock club, right? That's how it was. It meant to be grungy and edgy and kind of like, but then you walk into the bathroom and you'd hear, you're like, don't touch anything. So
just think about
it goes to show you that music can make anything look better, right?
It's true. I mean, when we were like young and we'd get a gig at the zoo, we were like, ooh, we're 15, 16, 17, 18. It's true. And we'd get a gig there and we were beside ourselves. We're playing the zoo, Yeah.
It was kind of like the Albert. You remember the Albert?
Yep.
Yeah, same thing. And it just was like amazing bands came through there. Great sound system, great room. Yep. But it was scary. Like, it's a scary place to be. sometimes, depending on the crowd. And there were definitely nights where it was like, all right, we got to get out of here before like a fight breaks out and someone gets stabbed. And then there's other nights where you're just like, okay, well, just don't touch anything. So
walk to your car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's a little memory. Actually, one second there, Angela. Just a comment from my lovely wife. She says, we used to go for there was a little restaurant, little cafe in the same building, and the food was wonderful, but we would not allow the kids to use the bathroom in that room, in that building. Anyhow, just a little memory. Oh, back to you, Angela.
Thank you, Mark. Stacey, let's move away from talking about venues and sticky floors, and let's talk about some of the Winnipeg bands. You recently, you annually put together a show called Women Helping Women, and you involved quite a few female musicians in that fundraising event, and you support some local nonprofit organizations who help women. And I was wondering if we could talk about the most recent event that happened and all of the wonderful musicians you work with. If you could tell us a bit about those people.
Yeah. Well, this year we had quite a lineup. So
you don't have to remember them all.
I know. I'm actually getting a cheat sheet because I'm like, if I leave someone out, I'll feel like poop, right? So, but yeah, no, we had so many different people on the lineup this year, and it was incredible. And they're all available at womenhelpingwomenevent.ca. If you go to the page, or to the website, they all have clickable links. So you can actually click on them and be taken directly to their individual pages to check out their music, which is something that's amazing. But yeah, they've all donated their time and their talent to this event to help fundraise the money for these different organizations here in Manitoba, actually, because we did have an organization that's out in Winkler, and then we had 3 others that were right here in the city of Winnipeg. So yeah, very grateful to have these wonderful women, and they're backing people. Like some of them have their bands that have men that are included, of course, it's just the name of the thing. But we have the full video that's going to be out, and that's going to be on the Women Helping Women YouTube, also on the page on Facebook. But then we also did a episode for Art Talk, which is that was streamed on Shaw TV. So we're all talking about that, and that was for last year's event, and that's going to be out and available for people to take a peek at too.
Excellent. I was right along with you during that event, and it was so much fun. I was really quite impressed with all the work that you did. It was just amazing. And
you, as a media promoter advisor lady, you helped so much. And
thank you. Yeah, I it's easy to create content about something you're excited about. So yeah, that's all that was.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Thank you.
I was happy to support it. It was a really good cause. And especially this year with COVID and, all of the women who are put in really difficult situations at this time in our lives. It's just, it was good work. Good work, young lady.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm already thinking about next year, and I'm like, oh, I'm not waiting till the nitty gritty. I'm starting to plan already. It's in my head. You planted that seed, so thank you.
Why put off today what you can put off tomorrow? Is what I say.
Don't take Mark's advice. Don't.
Excellent. Okay, just want to remind everybody that if you're interested in finding out more about Stacey, you can check her out on Facebook, Stacey James Writer. You can find out about the Stacey James Band, Stacey J Band, and she's also on Instagram and YouTube, all the same user ID, so it should be really easy to use, or easy to find, I should say. All of the other, so lots of other links as well in the description for the show. So Facebook, look up, YouTube, look down, and yeah, there we go. Wanted to get that in there right before we leave. So thank you very much for joining us, Stacey. This was a last minute thing for you, jumped in just with a couple of days to go. So I really do appreciate you've been a fantastic guest.
And apparently you're moving. So not only did you make the time for us, but like apparently like in the middle of a very busy season in your life. So we're very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad to
And
be
she's a mom, and she's a dog mom. So very busy.
As you could see,
an author and everything else too. So I mean, a very busy woman. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
I really enjoyed the song that you played, Stacey. Is that out yet, or was that something new?
No, that's the new one that's coming out with the band. Well, we've got it kind of scheduled so far 6 weeks from the 1st of February. So that song's called "You Love Me," and it's going to be coming out with the Stacey James band. Yeah.
Okay, that's coming out
Nice.
6 weeks from February or mid-March.
From the 1st. Yeah, so we'll be like mid-March-ish.
Okay, good. I was a little confused.
Sorry.
No problem. I'm easily confused. Okay, we are pretty much at the top of the hour. Thank you very much for everybody who's joined us in the comments. It looks like there are several comments that we weren't able to get to, so I apologize if we didn't get to those. So thanks again, the audience, and thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us.
Thank you.
Well. It's been absolutely great. It's been really good getting to know you. And of course, our Campbell, our special guest host, thank you for joining us again at the last minute. So it's always a pleasure to
Thank
work
you
with
for
Angela.
inviting me, Mark. That was fun.
Yes.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, indeed. For 3:30,
The Invisible Song Club.
3:30 Central. That'd be great. And of course, the guy at the bottom. We'll mention him even though he's a bass player. Ryan
Oh, here we go. Hashtag racism.
Okay, just pointed out that his middle name is also David, but he doesn't use it even though he should.
So we've got up on the. No, we can't. We're not going to recover from that. We usually say together, "It's all in the mind," and we are. It's all in the.
Yeah,
Not
when we're in
today.
the same room, we'll do that. We'll do our bits, but until then, until we're lag free. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you bet.
okay, we waited long enough. Let's put this to bed. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thanks again, Stacey, and we'll catch you all next week with Adam Feasy. So that'll be a lot of fun. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Oh, the invisible man.